Well, welcome back to the local experience. And today we're talking with Maayan Gordon, a local entrepreneur who has an absolutely fascinating story I think you're going to love. So, Maayan, how does a young girl from Seattle get all the way over to Spokane and create her own social media empire? Tell us about your story.
Yeah, wow, what a loaded question there. I grew up over in Seattle, and when I think most of the people who grew up in Seattle think of Spokane as like a Las Vegas, where it's like completely desert, there's no trees, there's no green. We like to think that Seattle's this kind of special oasis. And how I came over here was me and my husband, when I say we, it's usually me and my husband. Yeah. We knew that we couldn't really build a life the way we wanted to over in Seattle, just with how expensive even the housing market had gotten, how competitive the job landscape was, and how kind of saturated the city had become. So we set off on adventures in search of where we wanted to plant roots and kind of grow a family together. And we traveled all over Oregon, all over California, and then into Washington. And when we got to Spokane, we just fell in love with the city, with the communities, with the people here. And we pretty much right away went, this is the spot for us. This is where we want to, have our kids and raise our family. And that's what got us over here. Now, what got me into social media was really a long, convoluted, kind of windy trail of just first realizing that I didn't want to be a veterinarian, which is what did you want to be when you grow up? A veterinarian was what I 1,000% was certain that I was going to be, up until I was certain that I wasn't.
You're exactly like my daughter. She wanted to be a veterinarian until she went to her first semester at Washington State and realized, doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened to me. It took me 3 semesters at Occidental College to realize that I didn't want to do, 12 or 10 more years of that particular type of study. Just to get to the place where I really wanted to be in terms of, practicing veterinary medicine. So I dropped out because I'd found this other thing in the meantime called copywriting. And I fell in love with copywriting because I grew up reading stories and really being in love with words and the power that words have to make us feel different things, to help us imagine different things. But I got disenchanted to writing through the high school experience of only being exposed to essay writing and, book reports and scientific papers. And I really hated that type of writing. So I thought, I don't like writing. That's not a career path for me. And then when I discovered that people would pay you to write, email copy or, landing pages, like the words for the landing pages on their website, I was like, holy cow, this is a job. This is awesome. So I dropped down and started doing that full time. And then that led me into starting up several of my own businesses where my primary method of marketing and sales was through social media. I also did trade shows and cold calling and kind of all of the other things that existed in the world of sales at the time. But I really quickly and early on realized how powerful social media was as a marketing tool. And I just kind of, tested that out and did that for from then till now, and kind of took me in a couple different ways and across a couple different platforms, including onto TikTok. And had just really in the past year a phenomenal amount of success and new opportunities come from that.
Yeah. So tell me, how many followers do you currently have on TikTok?
I have 2.2 million.
2.2 million. That is amazing. So I guess the question ultimately is, why TikTok? What is it about TikTok that has such an impact on your business?
Yeah, so one is just the attention factor, right? It's really interesting to people. It's the platform that when you say a list of platforms in a row, that's the one that people are going to be the most interested to hear more about. So for me, it's definitely the most leverageable in terms of my ability to connect and form relationships with other people. And that's one of the things, especially in this past year, I realized that previously was really missing from my other businesses, is I hadn't taken time to form relationships that weren't client-based or advertiser-based or directly related to my business. And this year I realized, wow, I can actually form these amazing relationships with all these other people who right now when I meet them, I can't see how they can connect with my business or if there's any connection there at all. But I know that those people are really intelligent. They have experience that I don't have. And there's a lot that I can learn or benefit just by having that relationship with them. And also at the same time, there's a lot of unique things that I can bring to the relationship in terms of offering them value. And about a year and a half ago, I made a major kind of mindset and lifestyle shift around focusing on creating value and not creating money, with the belief that if I create enough value, the money will follow and in much greater quantities than if I'd ever been focused on the money in the first place.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what attracted you to TikTok? Because one of the things, what I know about you, you're a very creative person. Was one of the elements TikTok was the creative platform in of itself?
Yes. So I would say three things drew me to the platform. One was I like to try new things. And whenever there's something new on the internet, I want to try it out. Like, I want to see what that's all about. Two would be that I'd been so focused on Instagram because Instagram had been driving our sales, but then our Instagram growth plateaued very completely. So I kind of had to let go of my hold on just being focused on Instagram. And then I would say three would be what, to your point of TikTok had new creative editing features or new technologies that I hadn't seen other platforms incorporate. And I thought that made creating content more fun, easier to do, faster, and all of those things appealed to me as a marketer.
So why would if I'm a business owner, why would I want to make a concerted effort to get TikTok viewers and videos out there versus, say, Facebook, say Twitter, Instagram, I'm going to call them the legacy platforms.
Yep.
Why TikTok?
Yeah, so a couple of reasons. I would say one, to differentiate yourself. Almost any business that you can think of, if you're a pizza business, if you're a lawyer, if you're a realtor, the market's really unsaturated in your category on TikTok compared to, look at Instagram. There's a million of everything, every type of profession or business that you can possibly think of. So it's just to, one, stand out a lot easier. Again, when you're talking to people and saying, I own a dentist office, or I'm a dentist and we have a website. Cool, not interested yet. We have an Instagram page. Cool, not interested yet. We've got a TikTok. Oh, all of a sudden I'm really interested in your business in a way that previously I just wouldn't have listened as much, wouldn't have listened as hard, wouldn't have paid as much attention to anything else that you were going to say, because to really absorb information, you have to be interested in something, in the person that you're listening to, in the ideas that they're sharing with you. So that would be one. The second reason would be just organic reach. Instagram, it's very hard to grow a following, especially if you're not going to use paid advertising. Same I'd say with Twitter. LinkedIn's a bit better than both of those other platforms. Facebook is also a bit better in terms of the organic. But with TikTok, it's the potential is much, much higher. Not to say that everyone's going to be able to tap into that potential and get 1 million followers right away. But certainly it's 100 times, if not 1,000 times more possible and likely on TikTok than it is going to be on any other platform.
Yeah. So what's the difference of getting success on TikTok versus getting success on any other platform? What's that sort of secret sauce that it takes to be successful on TikTok?
Yeah, I think the real secret sauce is talent, right? Like, can you make an interesting 10-second video? Is that something that is natural to you or something you have to work really hard at? So that's the main secret sauce. The other, secret sauces or ingredients that you'd want to mix in with that sauce would be, consistency, which I don't think is unique. I think every platform requires some amount of consistency. I think TikTok, it's a little bit higher. So unless you're doing at least a post a day, it's going to be really difficult to grow. Or again, if you have amazing talent, you can get away with posting less often because those videos are going to be more long tail, meaning that they're going to continue getting views for days, weeks, possibly even months on a single video, which isn't normally the case with a lot of other platforms where there really is kind of a peak in viewers and then it goes relatively down to zero. But if you're not at that kind of peak of, talent in terms of creating video, the consistency of minimum one a day is, I think, really crucial to being able to build that consistent following.
Yeah. So let's say that I am a business owner. I want to take advantage of TikTok, but I am not a creative individual. I couldn't put a funny or a humorous or an engaging video to save my life. What do I do?
Yeah, I think the best, if you're totally lost, the best place to go is ask someone who's more experienced and can give you some insights, whether that's just a conversation or whether it's a consultation or coaching, like that's recurring. Yeah. That's probably the best place if you don't feel creative. If you do feel creative, but you're confused about where to start, I would say that you can probably figure it out on your own if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But if you're already telling yourself that you're not a creative person, which I would argue with that every single person is creative, it'd be like saying I don't enjoy anything.
That is probably very true. I think all of us have a spark of creativity, whether we realize it or not. Yep. I know for me, one of my favorite creativities is writing. I've written 2 books. I find almost therapeutic to sit down and compose all sorts of things, even though sometimes I don't see myself as creative. So What you're basically saying is you have it inside of you. You just have to start experimenting with your own video camera. And I was reading through one of your posts, talked about consume the content. Before you even get started, go through there and absolutely consume all the TikTok content that you need to get a feel for what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, but consume it in a way where you're like taking mental notes or actual notes, because the app is designed to get you into a state of subconsciousness where you forget that you're actually watching all these videos and you're just in kind of swipe mode and watch mode. So that's not going to be that helpful to you making progress.
Right.
But with the reason I would suggest watch, a lot of people might think, why would I watch videos of people dancing or sports when my business is about accounting? And the reason is because the aspects and the components of video, there's only so many of them. Yeah. There might be a lot. It might be 1,000 or 10,000 different variations of components that can make up a video. But that's it. And so you can look at other people's videos, even if they're in entirely different content categories, and look at the component and say, oh, I could take that one aspect or component or attribute and apply it and be creative with it and tweak it towards my content category.
That's interesting. Because obviously then if you're an accountant, you would think that an accountant would say, what the heck? Why would I be on TikTok? But if you could make 15-second entertaining accounting videos that can get a chuckle out of people, that's going to create some eyeballs, which creates attention to your business.
Yep, absolutely. And again, then people start asking you questions that have nothing to do with they go, your TikTok looks really interesting. Tell me more about you and your life.
Right.
And then it, very easy to transition to promoting or talking about or accomplishing any specific goals that you set out, even if they're completely unrelated to TikTok.
Yeah. So then let's say that my target market is an older audience. Let's say it's from between 40 to 55. Is TikTok still a viable platform, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 reasons. One is that, again, attention factor. Even if, let's say, on a different platform, you're talking to that age group, to a 55-year-old.
Yeah.
Bringing up, if you start out and you're like, hey, I do financial services. I want to help you figure out your retirement, blah, blah, blah. Their automatic thoughts probably going to be like, oh, another one. I don't really want to have this conversation. Yeah. I'm not interested. Like, no, thank you. But if you bring up, also, I've got, this TikTok account that's got, 5,000 followers and got this one video that did, 1 million views, they're at least going to be curious enough to now listen or ask you more about, even just like, why are you on TikTok? That's so strange. I've never heard of another person who does your job on TikTok. Like, tell me more about that. Yeah. And, sales is really about relationships. Make a friend, make a sale. So it's about getting people past the point of automatic no and disinterest into a place of curiosity, of interest. So that's one reason. The other reason is that there is a large audience of that age group on the app that does consume content. And there's very little content that's directed towards them. So again, just kind of small pond, big fish.
Right.
Where go where people exist and your clients exist, but there's not a lot of competition.
Yeah. And
that's a great business strategy.
And I've had discussions with clients before about social media, and every once in a while TikTok comes up, and obviously it's so new and explosive. There's a lot of confusion that goes around the TikTok, because I've had a lot of clients going, I don't know if TikTok's appropriate. Is it not appropriate? And obviously, let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room. Chinese spyware. So tell me about your thoughts of this whole controversy over the past 6, 7, 8 months with Chinese spyware issues, because TikTok is owned by a Chinese company as of this date. That may be changing, but tell me about your thoughts in this whole controversy.
Yeah, my thoughts are that it's kind of tied to what we were just talking about. TikTok just has more attention. And so when people want to talk about Chinese spyware, they're going to associate with TikTok, even though there's lots of other phones. Probably, if you're listening to this right now, on your app or on your phone right now, there's plenty of other apps that are also Chinese owned. WhatsApp, anyone who's got WeChat, which is a phenomenal app, and probably many, many more that you just either aren't aware of or don't really think about and aren't putting attention towards. I think personally, I have zero concerns about privacy issues in general. The worst case scenario in my mind around those privacy issues is if someone gets access to all of your kind of passwords and they start doing something that is financially detrimental.
Yeah.
I don't care if people take my pictures or I don't have anything to hide per se.
Right.
And I think that I'm well enough protected through the companies who deal with and protect my money that I'm not even concerned about the financial aspect.
Right.
So, I'm sure I think it's at least 50% of the adult population that has credit cards has experienced credit card fraud.
Right.
Why don't we make that a huge deal when it's something that there are actual consequences, not potential? Like when we talk about TikTok and Chinese spyware, we're talking about things that may happen or may be happening. No one's talking about something that has happened.
Okay.
And I'm just not worried about things that might happen, because personally, I see it as a bit of a waste of my energy. If there's some validity and some way for me to further protect myself, then I'll do that. But, going back to the credit card part, like when I experienced credit card fraud and, it was $600 on charges on my card, the credit card company fights that and they give you the money back right away.
Right.
So really there's nothing huge to stress over.
And I think a lot of the whole Chinese spyware issue is directed at people in secured environments. For example, my son is in the Marine Corps.
Right.
And although he's not currently working in a sensitive environment, there is a future that he might. And there's for example, and they actually had, there was a directive that all Marines had to remove TikTok off their phones for that reason. So I think that's where a lot of people, it's like, okay, if our Chinese agent sitting in Beijing spying on my every move as a civilian, I think that's a little extreme, but I can understand the concern that you're having a foreign oppositional power wanting to know a lot more about you than maybe you would want to give them that kind of information.
Yeah. And I think there's definitely a lot more validity towards people in the government or people in the military being concerned about those issues in general. Yeah. Again, I would not limit it though. If you're going to be concerned about everything, not just about one app. Because if you're concerned about them spying through TikTok, maybe there should be, no apps on the phone if you're in the military. Right. And also, when you go into the military, you're giving up a large amount of rights that most people get to enjoy. So I don't have any particular opinion over what people should or shouldn't be doing in that context. I just really know kind of what, I'm okay with, what works for me. And when I share my opinions around privacy and data, it's really just my opinions, and there's, everyone's entitled to make their own decisions around that. And I think that they should, do their own research, and look into things and consider their overall methodology or way that they operate with technology and what that relationship looks like, and not single it out to a specific app.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'll be honest with you is that all of us every single day, when we use those mobile devices, when we use technology like that, that's capturing our data mainly for advertisers. And I think there's always that sort of gray area of what is spying on us versus what's marketing to us. And I think there's a big concern, and this is in reading about TikTok, is that TikTok potentially could go way past that gray area and gather more of your personal data for future nefarious use versus, say, on Google, which is mainly capturing information so it can throw the exact right ads at you. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's actually an awesome discussion topic that I think we should be talking more about. And I think it really centers around and is a newer discussion topic because machine learning and AI has gotten so smart. And for people who aren't super familiar with machine learning, the way it works is that the longer it's been around, the smarter it gets because it has more data. It's also learning from its own. It's not just learning from your behaviors, it's learning from its own behaviors. And it's just old enough now. I think it's probably like 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
Where it's starting to get really smart. And what you're talking about is that blurred line that's getting more and more blurred between marketing and manipulation.
Yep.
And what are those differences between really good marketing and manipulating someone past a point where they're unaware that they're being manipulated? And I think that's kind of one of the things that makes it so tricky is we all have very different levels of awareness. Like I am much more aware of what advertisements are doing to me because I'm in the advertising space. Like I know what those tricks or hacks or concepts that they're tapping into are versus someone who may have never even thought about how this particular aspect of an advertisement could affect them just by their natural, brain habits or behavior, and thinking that it is their own control or decision that they're making. That's where I think it's, starts to get less ethical.
Right.
But it's hard to make sweeping statements for, entire populations when there's such great differences between people's awareness. So I think it's a really interesting conversation that we should start having more and more so that we can figure the answers out to that.
And I think there's a lot of people that are taking a look at the whole Chinese social media score process they use in China, and that they see TikTok as some sort of link between what the Chinese system, which is way overbearing, and Western European, North American privacy-centered focus that, we're okay with being placed with advertisements, but going beyond that's not all that great. What's your thoughts on that? Where people are saying that TikTok is this bridge between China and a more Chinese-style social media world in the Western world.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a stretch right now, especially because you do have control over those privacy feeds. Like you can go and turn off data collection on TikTok. I think where, again, people start to be more nervous is them saying things like, well, they're doing it without telling us, or like they're hinting at illegal behavior. There's always going to be businesses, whether they're Chinese or American, that do illegal behavior to make money. That's kind of the way of the world. There will always be a percentage of people who opt for that. But again, it's not something I have a lot of control over or concern towards, because I think the detriment to the business is so much greater than the potential that they're gaining from it, that I think very few businesses that are doing very well are going to want to engage in behavior that could be so detrimental to them.
Absolutely,
but to remind people, like Facebook had the biggest
Cambridge Analytica. I was just going to bring that up.
Data breach in human history. That we're aware of. Again, and that's an American-owned company. It's also something that we forgot about pretty quickly as the main public, and really clearly didn't care about to any large degree. There's also been huge data breaches, for example, with companies like Uber, where hackers got in and got access. I think it was like 150 million users' data, and they didn't tell the was it FCC or whatever the
Yeah.
governing
Yeah.
body is. They instead went, okay, find the hackers, pay them off, and destroy all evidence of it.
Yeah.
Like, we know about it now because people end up liking to talk about these
Yeah.
things.
It's interesting with Uber is that the whole Uber corporate culture focused in on sweeping things under the rug.
Yes.
It was just amazing how that worked. And so I think there's always that sort of concern in people's minds that TikTok is that sort of pervasive, slow moving takeover from nefarious people who want to impose those kind of negative systems on us.
Yeah, I would say, if you just look at human behavior and psychology, it's very unlikely that that's true.
Yeah.
Like you said, there has to be some type of culture of wanting to sweep things under the rug. And if you look at TikTok's culture, it's completely the opposite. They actually have a much higher level of transparency than any other app, not only in terms of them sharing, hey, here's actually parts of how our algorithm works. Like, I've never seen another social media come out and with a newsletter that they send to everyone saying, here are specific ways we are going to tell you this algorithm does work.
Yeah.
Now we're not going to tell you everything,
Right,
every detail, but like, here are some concrete things we're going to share with you, or just their willingness to talk with and create programs where they're directly communicating and working with the creators themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, why would a business who's trying to do a takeover in any type of sneaky way be working so openly with so many people who have power to negatively talk about them, right? Like, when you give your creators on a platform that amount of power, you're giving up some of your own power.
Right.
And that's certainly something that like Instagram doesn't do, and I don't see them ever doing.
Yeah.
Because if I was going to be concerned about any company, it'd be Instagram. Because they have so many algorithm changes. They do things without really any level of letting you know before time. And that's another thing TikTok does, is they'll say, hey, this is something we're going to do.
Wow.
And we want you all to know about it. We want your suggestions and feedback on it. And we want you all to get involved. It's not just something we're going to impose on you. It's something that they've really created the app to be a community more than just a platform. And I think that when you're creating a community, it's not to take over things. It's to empower the people within it.
And that's fascinating, because I don't think that message has really resonated in our society, how open TikTok is because of their ownership. So I wanted to kind of pivot and talk about the future of TikTok. What do you see happening? Is there going to be an ownership change? And where is that platform going from what you can see?
Yeah, so to the first question of ownership change, I don't know enough about how these giant business deals go, like the inner details of what makes something go through versus what makes something not go through, to have a well-formed opinion on that. I think depending on who has the power to make those decisions happen or not is really the answer. Like, how does that person feel? What is their mindset? Or those people, what is their vision? What are they looking at that's going to, make them make those decisions or not make those decisions? I'm not concerned about it either way. I think that TikTok has enough hold and root in kind of the American public, especially in the youth, where if the government wanted to impose something, there'd be enough people fighting that. I think there's also enough money now in their ecosystem where, again, not even just on the creator level, but brands who've put millions of dollars into the platform would use some of their awesome lawyers to be like, hey, this is unconstitutional. And we've already seen a lot of pushback, push and pull in either direction of trying to make a deal go through. So whether it goes through or not, I'm fairly certain, like as certain as I can be, that, TikTok's here to stay for a very long time. I also see them doing a lot of things that make them a platform that would be hard to get rid of because of the value that they're bringing to people. That value being based in the number of jobs that they've, brought into the United States, which right now during this crisis is a way bigger deal than it would have been, a year ago. I think it's hard for anyone to say we're going to shut down a company that has 10,000 jobs and all of those people are going to lose their jobs, and we don't really have good concrete reasons to give you.
Exactly.
Another is that they've made a lot of effort and put a lot of money into their hashtag Learn on TikTok program, and they're really positioning themselves to be an educational platform. And the education industry and system right now is so severely broken, and people are so aware that it needs to change in some really dramatic ways, that I think that that's another reason people are not going to want to kind of dismiss TikTok or try and bring it down, is it's starting to fill that gap of how can people learn about things on their own, personalized to them. And I think it'll be a stepping stone for what education looks like in the future. And if you remove a stepping stone, it makes it almost impossible to get to actually that next place.
So that's interesting. Tell me about, you wouldn't think that TikTok is a learning platform. I guess most people see it as goofy dance videos. What would make TikTok a learning platform, especially with the length of videos that you can put on there?
Yeah, so I think if you haven't been on TikTok and seen some of the learning content, one, you might need to redefine what educational content means. I think a lot of us who grew up in the normal school system, we think of educational content as like an hour and a half long history video. Like it has to be long, it has to be boring,
and it doesn't.
And it doesn't. So when you think of TikTok, it doesn't match either of those things. It's not long, it's not boring, and so you immediately think, oh well, then it can't be education. When in reality, the moments when we learn things tend to be moments, not hours and hours. Like we might be consuming information, but when we learn something new, it's that small epiphany moment where something sticks with us and it's now a permanent part of our consciousness. And I think TikTok achieves that in a fantastic way, because it only gives you that 10 to 60 seconds where you can deliver the information you want. So it tends to be more bite-sized. And I think things are easier for most people to remember in a bite-sized fashion. So if you think about YouTube as being an educational platform, which I think it'd be really hard for anyone to argue it isn't, especially with most of the content being how-to videos. Like yes, there's shows and other types of entertainment, but the bulk of it is how to do something. And that's what people go to YouTube for. How do I change my car tire? Oh crap, how do I do my taxes?
Exactly.
And TikTok's just the short form version of that. So you might not be getting all of the detail and all of the info that you need to accomplish something the same way you would in one YouTube post. But if you find one piece of bite-sized content, you can go to that person's page and then consume all of their other bite-sized content in the order and in the time that you want to. So it's much more personalized in terms of the information it's delivering you based on what you're indicating you're looking for.
Well, it's interesting that you bring this up, because I'll be honest with you, I think we live in an ADD world, and we all have that attention deficit, and it doesn't even really, if you think about it, the increase in ADD diagnosis has been going off the charts for years, whatever reason that is. When my son was diagnosed ADD a number of years ago, but I noticed even with him, if I could give it learning in bite-sized chunks, he retains it better. So I think you bring up a great point, that if we can put learning into bite-sized chunks for an ADD culture, we still achieve that same level of learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially if you think about your ability to learn and retain information as being dependent on your focus over a given period of time. If that focus is low and remains low because you initially are bored and then you stay bored, and there's nothing to really engage you, you might spend, let's say, 4 hours trying to learn something and walk away with almost nothing. Compared to even if in that same 4 hours you consume bite-sized content and you only are interested in only 10% of it piques your interest. That's at least now 40 minutes, or that's bad math, but do clock math for me. But it's still at least some amount, let's say 20 minutes, 40 minutes of learning that you gained that stuck with you, that really might have a tremendous impact on how you look at new information. Because that's a really cool thing people don't talk about enough or realize enough around education. It's not just about learning that one piece of information.
Yeah.
It's that when you learn, you increase your ability to learn more and to retain more information. And so the more pieces of info you can bring to yourself, the more they're like little
Right.
dots on a map. And then you start being able to connect the dots.
Right.
And from those connections, you're learning new information. So the dots are things you're learning, the lines connecting them are things that you're learning. And so it just starts to compound until you're at this place where you're actually learning all the time from every single thing that you do, because you're paying enough attention, you have enough focus, and your brain has realized what learning really is. It's not just sitting in a classroom, learning how to spell something or learning this particular thing. You can constantly be in a state of learning. And the more that we realize how we can put ourselves and position ourselves or get to this state of learning, kind of the same way people talk about fulfillment or happiness. Happiness isn't a destination. It's kind of a state of being
Right.
that you want to achieve. And I think that's how we need to start thinking about learning as well.
And obviously, what you're basically saying here is that TikTok is an ideal platform that allows us to connect those dots in a way that no other platform can really do. Because if you think about this, at the end of the day, marketing is nothing more than education that helps consumers make choices for their own benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even more than the platform being geared towards helping people learn particular pieces of information, it is really a unique environment where you can start to, I call us like turn the gears in your head, where a lot of us think things about ourselves that simply aren't true. Like, I'm not good at this, or I'm not creative, I'm not funny, I'm not this or that. And then you watch a video on TikTok, and again, due to many different factors, you wouldn't have this experience even with the same video on almost any other platform, where when that 10-second video pops up, you go, oh my God, I just realized something about myself. And that's where the true magic is.
Yes, that is just a fascinating concept, that the more we learn about learning in of itself, the more that we can refine our approach to get enough attention. Because here's the thing is, if I sit in an hour-long lecture, how much of that do I absorb? Maybe 3 or 4 minutes. What if I could dial that down into actual, say, 1-minute videos or 1-minute content that could then get exactly what I need and leave all the 50 minutes of fluff out there? And obviously, It sounds to me in our discussion here that TikTok actually can do that, and it doesn't have to just be funny dance videos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's finish up with Champion Empire. Tell me what you're looking to do with this.
Yeah, so with Champion Empire, our mission and what we're looking to achieve is to empower and equip champions from all over the globe to lead within the business community. And really the concept of that came from me and my partner, Jesse Johnson, who's another local here to Spokane, that we want to make an impact with our lives. Like when we look at our end of life goals, we want to change the lives in a positive way of hundreds of thousands of people. And it's much harder to do that when you personally are going to try and connect with, 100,000 people, versus if you look at it from the ripple effect standpoint of, if I can change this one person's life who is a business owner and they change the lives of all their employees, and then all of those employees have a beneficial impact on their families' lives, that you can really get to that large scale impact much more easily. So that's why we focus on people within the business community. Right. And why we focus on empowering and equipping is because those are really the two, if you break it down to the top level things that all of us need to be successful. We need support, whether that's emotional and someone believing in us or walking with us through the difficult path that we're trying to pursue, or whether that's actual support with, resources. And that's where the, equip part comes from, is it's equipping yourself both with the financial resources, the mental resources, the understanding of how to use technology and tools to your benefit, but also equipping you mentally with here are things like you need to be thinking about, or at least aware of, as a business owner, as an employee, as someone within the business community, because your impact when you are in the business community is so great. And not to discount the impact of anyone outside of the business community, but I think a lot of times people who aren't business owners, who work for a company, really don't realize how much of an impact they have on not just their own life and their family's lives, but on the entire community, from a sense of being able to deliver more value than we get back in compensation, in just our own value. Like, us as human beings, I think that's one of our really unique traits, is we can create more than the resources that we're given. Like, when given resources, and we all have different resources at different levels, we can create a level of abundance, and we can create an amount of value that not only supports us, but supports a good number of other people. And a lot of people, I think, haven't figured out how it is that they're doing that. Or they go, well, I just work for this company.
Right.
How can I really impact other people besides myself and the owner and the people in the company? And so that's a really big passion and mission of ours, is to get people just to realize their own like true significance and impact that they have.
That is fascinating. So you're not only aiming Champion Empire at the owner, but the individual employee who can be developed to support the mission of the business, correct?
Yes. Oh, that was a beautiful way to say that. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of disconnect, starts with, is if your business doesn't have a strong, like either you, the owner, or just the business you're working for, doesn't have a really clearly defined, strong mission or way that, it's bringing people into the mission, then it's, of course, really easy to be in a space where you're like, I don't really know, like, why I know I'm doing this because I need to feed my family and like support myself, but like, why am I really a part of this?
Yeah.
And so that's where usually like we end up starting working with businesses or individuals, is like, what is either the mission of your business, or you as a human being, what is your mission with your life? Because I think a lot of people, another thing they don't realize is no matter what business you work for, you can bring your personal vision for your life into the business, and you can marry it or tie it in with the business so that, yes, you're helping the business accomplish its mission, but it's helping you accomplish your life mission as well.
Yes. And so with Champion Empire, if I understand this correctly, then it really zeroes in on helping you as an employee and or you as an owner find a deeper why. Why do you do what you do? And once clarity is established, then it becomes a lot easier to implement strategies and processes before you get to that point.
Yes, 1,000%. Yeah, it starts with the overarching why, setting goals, just like a deep dive look at who you are in yourself and your abilities and the things that you want to achieve in your life. And then figuring out based on that, okay, well then what are the resources, the tools, what is the path that makes the most sense to help you get there?
Yeah, because obviously here in business coaching, I do a little bit of that, but a lot of what I do is the process then that's involved into the growth of the business. How do you systematize?
Right.
How do you structure? How do you hire? How do you do an overall strategic marketing? What are the leverage points? What's the hiring property? What you're really focused in on is that deep dive into almost the foundation of either a business or a person to create that ability to grow.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's like our focus. We do also help businesses kind of once they get past that phase into all the nitty gritty details of it. But usually businesses will approach us for a nitty gritty detail, and we really try and push them to go through a process of kind of deep dive. Who are we? Why are we here first? Because when you clarify that, it makes everything so much easier, more efficient. I think, any business owner or employee that has that sense of uncertainty, like you can wipe away that uncertainty in that phase of really figuring out like, what is the why that I feel so strongly connected to? And then it becomes easy yes or no answers to any question. Like, does that help me get closer to my why?
Well, that's
yes
great.
or no.
That's interesting. Well, thank you so much, Maayan, for coming in today. And how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in getting to know more about you, Champion Empire, or any of your glass blowing activities and such?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a bunch of different places you can kind of find me and connect with me. I'll say a couple of them. So in terms of the Champion Empire, if you're interested in more information or to get in touch through that, we have a website. It's championempire.net. For my own personal brand, I also have a website where it deals a little bit more with like my marketing services, has a list of the podcasts I've been a guest on and just more things about me and my story. And that's maayangordonmedia.com. And then you can also, connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Those are really great places to just send me a quick message where I'll get back to you pretty quickly. Yeah. First name, last name, Maayan Gordon on LinkedIn. And then on Instagram, it's Maayan Gordon Media.
Well, thank you so much, Maayan, for coming in on the local experience. I think this was a great discussion today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so much fun.